There has been nothing to celebrate in Srinagar for more than 2 months now. Curfewed nights and lifeless days. Empty streets and listless families. A catatonic stillness unbroken even on the festival of Eid. Like the rest of the city, the residential police colony here wears the scars of a wounded valley. The neighborhood is quiet. Hardly anyone can be seen except for a few young children. Local Kashmiri policemen have in fact been the most vulnerable during this period of turmoil. Openly targeted as traitors by the protesters on the streets, the separatists and now also the militants like the Hizbul Mujahideen who have threatened Kashmiris with death if they join the police force. While on duty in the more volatile parts of the valley, many policemen prefer to mask their faces to hide their identity. Getting spotted and identified means their families could be targeted. For a city that is now used to only these sounds, to hear music is almost disorienting. But in one corner of Srinagar, the sound of stones and tear gas shells and slogans has been momentarily drowned out. Just for a few hours, melody has set aside misery. This is love in the time of curfew. Uwais, a serving police officer, is getting married. A wedding in itself would be extraordinary for the circumstances that the valley is in. But there is something else that makes this meeting of hearts unique. As India and Pakistan go to battle at the United Nations over Baluchistan and Jammu and Kashmir, this policeman is getting married to a Pakistani, Faiza, a distant relative from across the border in Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. Making things even more unusual, Uwais's father Shabir Gilani is also a police officer. To marry his son across the border was in fact Shabir's decision. His family, like many others, was left divided by the line of control. And the first time he was able to visit Pakistan was in 2014, only after he retired. He took the bus from Srinagar to Muzaffarabad, which has remained functional even during this period of violence. And it is on this bus that his daughter-in-law finally arrived home to Srinagar. When he crossed over into POK, the first thing Shabir Gilani did was to pray at his grandfather's grave.
मैं कहीं इधर उधर मुझे जाने का मौका नहीं मिला कि मैं सैर करूं। सिर्फ मेरा वक्त गुजरा मेरे बुजुर्गों के मज़ारात पे फातिहा पढ़ने।
We asked him about the irony. His and his son's professional lives as police officers fighting militants from across the border, and his personal connection to a family across the same border.
आप मुझे ये बताइए कि आप तो पुलिस में रहे हैं, जैसे आपने कहा कि आप तो मुजफ्फराबाद जाने का सोच भी नहीं सकते थे जब तक आप रिटायर ना हो जाए, ठीक है? और जब आप वर्दी पहनते थे तो आपके मन में आपको पाकिस्तान से भी जो इन्फिल्ट्रेशन होती थी या जो मिलिटेंसी होती थी, आपको उसको लड़ाई करना पड़ता था। आज आपने उसी क्रॉस बॉर्डर में शादी कर दी, तो कुछ इसमें आपको कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन लगता है पुलिस अफसर होने के नाते?
हम तो ये कहते हैं ना कि हम खानदानों के मिलाप के लिए बात करते हैं। बाकी मसाइल जो हैं वो एक साइड में है। वो पिछली कहानी खत्म होगी। जब मैं पुलिस में था तो क्या था, कैसे हुआ, क्या नहीं हुआ, वो मेरी जो ड्यूटी थी।
आप क्या बोल रही है?
मैंने कहा वो इनकी ड्यूटी थी,
वो हमारा जो जिम्मेदारी होती है या जो मसाइल होते हैं उसको आप एक साइड में छोड़िए, क्योंकि हमारे बुजुर्ग वो ये हमेशा यही बोलते थे कि ये रास्ते आजाद कब होंगे। ये गौर करने वाली बात है। यानी आजादी किसके मांगते थे? उन रास्तों की जो वो रास्ते बंद हो गए थे।
So while Azadi slogans may be the battle cry of protesters in the valley, this family wants a different kind of Azadi, the freedom for divided families like theirs to meet.
Against the backdrop of prolonged tension here within the Kashmir Valley as well as between India and Pakistan, finally a story of hope. A story of a divided family brought together. A story of a family that still looks ahead at happier times and the possibility of happier times. And of course, finally, a story that reminds you that love lives on, even in the age of curfew.
There is nothing typical about the wedding ceremony either. Married over Skype in 2014, the bride has managed to cross over into India only now to complete what's called her rukhsati from her parents' home. It's the women of the household from either side, Hanifa and Shamima, who show the most strength.
आप माँ हैं, उस समय आपको ये थोड़ा सा लगा कि दोनों देशों के बीच में, दोनों मुल्कों के बीच में इतना तनाव है कि कहीं प्रॉब्लम ना हो जाए कि हम ये क्रॉस बॉर्डर निकाह करने वाले हैं।
लेकिन हमारे दिल में हमेशा यही तमन्ना रही है कि ये जो हालात हमेशा से ऐसे हैं ये नॉर्मल होने चाहिए और उम्मीद है कि इंशाल्लाह नॉर्मल होंगे, इसीलिए हमने इसी उम्मीद से ये रिश्ते किए हैं।
उस समय कैसे हालात थे?
उस वक्त ठीक थे, इतना नहीं था। पहले ये बस गई, शायद इसमें और कुछ ये इस तरह के मसले हों कि और आसानियां हों ताकि हमें आगे ये मुश्किलें, लेकिन उम्मीद थी हमें दोनों तरफ से, यहाँ से भी, अपने गवर्नमेंट से भी और पाकिस्तान से भी, कि ये आपस में जुड़ने चाहिए।
Peace between India and Pakistan is elusive, as it's always been, but they say there was a glimmer of hope when Prime Minister Modi visited Lahore.
जब मोदी जी लाहौर गए तो आप लोगों में किस तरह की उम्मीद?
बहुत, हमें बहुत खुशी हुई, हमें फख्र हुआ कि ये दोनों मुल्क एक हो रहे हैं, हमें बड़ी खुशी हुई थी इस बात पे।
Stories like these of the Gilani family are unusual for this prolonged phase of tension, but they are an example of what has become the new normal in Kashmir till things get better. With Ruby Dhingra, Numan Siddiqui and Shurbani Bhattacharya, Barkha Dutt for NDTV.